Time we talked, it was shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Did you see the name of that video?
Yes.
Did you laugh at all?
Yeah.
Because I was laughing when I was like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. That's perfect.
That was funny too. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's been a rough week. I kind of let myself go back to hell.
You know what? Sometimes that really serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think that's always a bad thing or an indication of failure. Sometimes I think that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know? And I actually told you to. Didn't I say you just need to either diet or you need to,
Yeah.
you know, so I kind of suggested it.
Yeah. And then it just gave me a taste of the reality of it again because I just went straight back into feeling like I had to, like what's next? How am I going to control, my eating? And because I just really felt like, well, I'm having morning sickness too, so
that's right.
Everything is so weird right now.
Do you know how far along you are?
I'm 6 weeks. Only 6 weeks, but
yeah. So it's early, but it's early enough. It's late enough that you're probably starting to feel sick.
Yeah. Oh, right when we got home from our vacation, I was just like, this whole week I've been really tired, and then I have trouble sleeping at night.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's like the anxiety of all this coming back.
Yeah, and you know what? You can probably tell the difference.
Yeah.
I know for me, it was very clear with the mental disorder, or whatever you want to call it, syndrome, insanity, crazy train, whatever you want to call it.
All that.
It was like you kind of can tell when it's self-induced. That's why when you go to a therapist, they're like, well, let's put you on an antidepressant. And you're like, yeah, what's that going to do? Because I can tell that this is different. It's not happening to me. I'm involved in it. So how am I going to get it? How do I not be involved? So you can tell when you're involved in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're discerning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what helped me recognize this week, how the, I guess like the diet industry and the ideas that come from it just really spun me in a loop and, made everything kind of out of control again.
That helped maybe give you some clarity?
Yeah, it made me realize the truth of it, what this outcome and how I've kind of mutilated my body and what the real reason it is, and there's no way I can fix it. So that just really is real to me today.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what holds people up in the recovery process is that they hold on to the hope that the body can be fixed.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. I know, even though I'm telling you, you have to not even hope for it to be fixed. You're kind of like saying, but I hope I can fix it. Even though it's like, nope, now you're seeing it more clearly that I can't recover. If I really want permanent relief, if I want relief from this, if I want this to be over, if I want this dark, torturous part of my life to be done with, over with, I can't even hold out for hope that this body's going to get fixed.
Yeah.
Because the only way to fix it would be to focus on it. And don't you agree the focusing on it is the dark, that's the darkness, and the dieting is the darkness. It's like, that's what you're trying to get rid of. So it's like, what happens, I think, in the process of suffering is people eventually see it clearly that there is no escape this way.
Yeah.
And that is real. Like, this is going in circles. There is no change. This is what it is. I can hold on to the want, or I can even hold on to this resent that I have body fat, but that resent ultimately is going around in circles. Because eventually, if you resent it, that victimization of poor me, I have to be fat, goes around in circles.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, I can sit here and feel sorry for myself, but where's that going to end? Feeling sorry for yourself is just promoting the suffering.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I just went all the way back to feeling suicidal this week,
Yeah. Well, that's where it ends up too. That's where it ends, because you feel like, I can't be thin, I might as well die.
Yeah.
That's where I was. That's where you're at. This is where it's like, this ultimately ends up in the same place. It's the same disorder, whether you're anorexic or binge eating, you end up in the same place, which is, life isn't worth living like this.
Yeah.
But, so the willingness, the way, so it's not worth living the way you're doing it. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. The hard part is realizing that the way you're doing it really has no escape. There is no escape the way you're doing it.
Right.
That is true. However, there's a way to get out. You have to stop what you're doing. And
yeah.
What are if you stop what you're doing, what are the consequences? At least, what do you think the consequences will be?
Then I'm just gonna blow up.
Yeah.
Fatter and.
Yeah. Yes.
Be bedridden and yeah.
Yes, but the funny thing is, that's what the consequences are of what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's
that's
like,
what I just realized today, what a twisted hamster wheel that is.
Right. So oftentimes people say to me, Robin, I can't accept this because I fear for my health. Not realizing that their health is the way it is because of what they've been doing.
Yeah. Yep.
It's so twisted, right? Isn't that so backwards? It's so flipped inside out. The illusion, you're chasing the mirage. I know you've heard me say this in other videos. If you've watched them, it's like you're chasing a mirage. The mirage is that it can be fixed. That when you fix the body, you will be free. You'll have all of this infinite space of happiness because a thinner body provides that freedom. But what it takes for you to do that is promoting these urges to binge, because the extremism and the restrictions have no lenience, no grace. It's very perfectionistic.
Yeah.
Because your desperate need to be thinner is promoting the perfectionism. Even if the diet you're going to isn't perfectionistic, your desperate need to be thinner is making it all or nothing.
Yeah, yep.
So your desperate need to be thinner is the problem.
Yeah, that's what it was this week, because I didn't tell myself, I was specifically going on any kind of diet. I just was like, I just let myself, believe that, someday I'm going to be thinner and this is going to be fixed through, this eating to hunger. And then it put me right back into, like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Maybe I should measure a cup of food. Maybe I should just not order this much of that. I'll get this instead. And then I caught myself in it, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in hell.
You're back in the trap.
Yeah.
And how do you escape it?
Yeah, I have to stop believing that there's hope for it. And that the idea of it is even ridiculous is what I realized this morning. Like, the reason why I think that it's better to be thin is because somebody's lied. I believe this lie.
Yeah, that's the mirage.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why you're chasing it, is because you actually believe being thinner would make your life better. And now you have all these physical consequences chasing that mirage that are supporting your continuous chasing of it, right? Like, not realizing that what you're doing chasing that mirage is actually promoting the excessive impulses to eat. So you're backed into a corner. You're backed into a corner. The only alternative, let's go to suicide. There is suicide. The other alternative is that it's a different form of suicide, is you commit suicide to the thinner ideal from existence.
Exactly.
And that's what you'll have to do, is then actually accept and acknowledge the body you have. You have to breathe it into your lungs. You have to acknowledge that it exists and give it. So there's that, which is painful, because what you have, What you're holding on to are all those beliefs and stigmas that being fat makes you inferior, that you can't handle it, you're a quitter, you're a loser, you're a piece of shit, you're worthless. No one will, you're going to be alone the rest of your life. You know, all of those fears that you've attached to this weight, you have to now face. And that doesn't feel good. Have you ever wanted to face those fears and look at them?
No, that's why I've been pushing it down for so long. And
well, isn't that what you've been running away from? Isn't that what your whole entire suffering has been, to avoid those emotions?
Yes.
Right? So you've never, you could look at this whole picture and go, that's what I've been doing. If anybody wanted to define this, it's not it's not what I'm doing. That's the definition of this. It's what I'm running from that is defining this.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't do all this compulsive binging. I wouldn't have all this dark, demented shame.
Yeah.
If I didn't believe that thinnerness held the keys to life.
Right. And you know what's been something that I learned this morning too, that I've been trying to tell myself all this time, that, oh, my body is beautiful, and I was trying to convince myself to think,
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and this huge, like body acceptance crap that's going on in the media
doesn't
now.
Work that way. I mean, it's awesome. It's true. It's true, but
awesome.
You shouldn't take convincing. That's where I came to that in that last session. I was like, it doesn't work. I can't convince you. I can't force you to do this. You have to do it. You're the one that has to surrender this, because you're the one that's in this body.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, yeah, Robin, I'm willing to do this, when in your heart you are disgusted.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I had to tell myself, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, okay, so it's not, I don't feel like it's beautiful. Like, you see the figure of a woman and you feel like it, certain figures are more appealing, I guess.
Certain figures have attached sentiment to them. They have, they have symbolism attached to it. Yeah. So that's what you're describing, is certain bodies have attached symbolism of beauty, sexuality, athleticism, or whatever it is. You've attached something symbolic to it. You're not born that way.
Like brainwashed in.
Yes, that's programming. It's programming.
Wow. Yeah.
And to some degree, we're wired to care about that programming, because it's like a superficial way to know if someone's safe or not. It's like if you look at different, let's just say, tribes of people, you differentiate yourself with different ways that you dress. Different headdresses, different clothing, different, look at gangs, different colors. That's how they differentiate each other. And you, depending on what position you're in, and how ignorant you are, because I think ignorance is the whole point. This whole thing is based off ignorance, is that we can make assumptions about people based on the way they look.
Yeah.
To some degree, it's somewhat true. And in general, though, it's completely ignorant. But it's, I think, part of our nature to want to feel safe with people, and the first way we do it is through the sensory of sight. Dogs do it through smell. I'm going to smell their butt. Ooh.
If only it were that easy.
Right. Bend over. What's in your anal glands? Let me smell your hair. What type of shampoo do you use?
Yeah. Wow.
Even that is so dumb, But, so, yeah, even how young and how old you are. I mean, there's ageism, there's sexism, and all of those, to some degree, we can say is actually very natural for people who are in those lower states of survival. I would do the same thing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I wouldn't. If I was in survival mode, my senses would be heightened, and our eyes are a very dominant sense to our species.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I know this week, too, I've gone straight back into that survival mode, because my head is cloudy and I can't breathe all week,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
feel
sleeping
disoriented,
good.
feeling
Yeah,
disoriented, and you
like I
have
don't know how to do life at this point.
total anxiety, panic. There's
Yeah.
a real frantic sense to it, like frantic, like it's
Yeah.
animalistic. Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm really not, because I think it serves a purpose. And you've been here before, so it's not like you can't handle this, but it certainly is impulsive and destructive. Very toxic place to be, because you're not thinking from logic, you're thinking from survival, which is actually quite dangerous to everybody around you as well. So, yeah. So you have to really look at this and accept that this is what it's like to do this. And so if you cannot accept your body, you have to accept that this is the way it's going to be. And there is some relief in that. I'm not telling you have to make a decision right now. I hope you don't think that I'm promoting a decision right now, but I'm just trying to help you see that this requires...
I want to be done.
Well, you have to face... Okay, so this is really where the bottom is. You have to face your fears. You have to open your eyes to them. You have to look at them and try to understand them. And so the only way to do that is to be present with those fears.
Yeah.
So be present with fear. Can you handle fear? What is fear, right? So let's start with just, are you afraid of fear?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I know, right? That's where it magnifies. So your response to fear is probably 5 times as high as it should be. And so no wonder you don't want to look at what that fear is, because you're afraid of it. And so afraid of fear is like magnifying it exponentially, right? It's not like double. It's exponential magnification of what fear feels like. So let's look at what fear feels like. If you were to talk about, it's really just a physical sense.
Yeah, it's like my heart pounding. I can't breathe. My
your
brain
head
just kind of washes out. I can't.
Yeah, you might get a headache.
Think. Yeah.
Can't breathe. You might feel like your chest is heavy.
And
your
tight,
skin, shaky is for sure. So that physicality, if you were to rate it on 1 to 10, compare it to, let's just say, labor and delivery. Which one's worse?
Oh, yeah. So that would probably be like a 4.
Yeah, it's nothing. So when you really look at the physicality of fear, it's actually very tolerable. It's not a big deal. It's what, nausea is worse. So you're in nausea, or you're getting close to the nausea. If you get it, way worse. I mean, just go into having the flu, like the stomach flu. It is so goddamn miserable. You're praying to God to get rid of it. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
You're just like, I just want to puke and get it over with. It's the worst. Fear is so much more tolerable to just handle. People go to movies to have that sensation. I mean, people.
Yeah, wow, that's true.
Yeah. Nausea. Do you think people like nausea?
No.
Let's go and take this nausea pill to make us vomit.
Oh, wow.
So when you really look at what fear is it worthy of being afraid of?
No. Nope.
So that's the first step, don't you think?
Yeah.
For you is, let's just be open to feeling what fear is. The thing about fear is what it tells you, the message of it is to do something. Do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
Yep. Try to fix it.
Move it, hide it, run from it, fight it. There is a message of do something. It creates a sense of impulse, and it's almost like it takes time. Your sense of time becomes very pressurized, because it's the sense of doing something comes with now. Can you see how beneficial that would be to the survival of the species?
Oh, yeah.
Any species. Yeah. So should we judge that or be afraid of that impulse of now? No. So it works. It's such a good thing if you were standing in front of a gorilla.
Right.
Now. Go. Or freeze. Freeze now. Those are so beneficial, and we can see that across the entire spectrum of animals around the planet. Changing the skin color, adapting to their environments, inflating their bodies when they become aggressive or when they're in the fight position of survival, shrinking their body when they're in the hiding position, right? We are so similar. We have similar reactions. So when you feel fear and you're afraid of it, you could probably look at your behavior and go, oh, I'm shrinking. I'm not necessarily aggressive so much as I shrink. Or you go back and forth. You could say you shrink. You are aggressive when it comes to fighting for food. You shrink when it comes to going out in public.
Yeah.
So you can look at, we talked about those Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how he puts a hierarchy in terms of how our brain prioritizes survival needs. No wonder you're fighting for food. That's the most dominant primary survival need to survive. So you're fighting for that food. But when it comes to that third hierarchy of need, which is the desire to feel lovable and to feel comfortable with people and to feel confident and competent and wanted and, accepted into a tribe, why you would shrink. Because you're using thin supremacy as the most important defining definition of your value socially. Right? Yeah. So can you see why you shrink and hide? Because you're embarrassed and feel hopelessly overweight, but at the same time, because to be thinner and to go out and to feel confident and competent and to feel connected with people, your food has to be rationed into famine.
Wow.
So your impulse is to fight for food because your need to be thin is so pressurized for you to be accepted and loved in your tribe. Only because you personally have internalized and believe that thinner people are superior people.
Oh, yeah.
So this is where you have a choice, because that's your choice to believe that.
Yeah.
You believe it. And so the hardest part of this is to really look at the reality. First of all, because we could call you a thin supremacist because you believe it, and you will be until you basically exorcist it, you get it out of your belief systems to where you don't believe it anymore. You are doomed to feel like shit about yourself. You'll never recover from how bad you feel about yourself as a human being.
I have a hard time. Like, I feel like I don't believe it. Like, I know it's all bullshit now, but for some reason I just feel like there's a wall in there,
Yeah, well, this might be, Jennifer, this might be because you don't believe it for other people. You might be attaching to, I don't believe it. Well, you don't believe it for other people. You're giving everybody else the grace that they can be that size, and they should still love themselves. They're good, you might believe that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to you need to meet a higher standard.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's the narcissism.
Like, oh my gosh.
Don't judge it.
Yeah.
Because that's your personal survival. They're surviving. They can survive with less. But I have to survive with more because I'm kind of higher in terms of my position. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why you have more shame. Your level of shame with your body is exponentially higher than a lot of people. Which is why you have such impulsive issues with dieting and food. People who don't have this type of superiority, inferiority issues wouldn't feel and didn't feel bad about their weight when they were at a weight you thought was horrible. Because you could go back in your history and say, well, I wasn't always this size, and even if I was overweight, I would do anything for that body. Well, at that time, you were disgusted with yourself and just as ashamed with that body as you are now.
Yeah.
The person that had that same body who didn't feel as ashamed never ended up having these issues because they didn't take the thin supremacy as serious. They didn't feel that they were so superior they had to meet these crazy ass standards.
Wow.
right? They probably accepted mediocre and thought, whatever it is true. I'm not going to pretend to be better than this for whatever reason. Whatever reason. So you could look at, well, if I didn't feel that I had to meet such superior standards, I wouldn't carry this intense shame.
Wow.
Do you see that?
Yeah. Yep.
So the intense shame is what you're trying to get rid of. That's what creates, if we really look at your fear, so if we were to look at what you're afraid of, it's being ashamed and the embarrassment of failure to yourself. The feelings of, I have failed. I'm a failure. So if you look at the fear, the message you have in that fear is, I'm embarrassed and I don't want to be exposed because it'll be embarrassing. I'm afraid to feel embarrassed. I'm afraid to be seen as a failure. So people will think that I am inferior. I don't want people to think I'm inferior. Plus, if I am inferior, I will be embarrassed because being inferior is like pathetic, so there's narcissism in that.
Yeah.
If you look at that, that's what you're afraid of. When people say, but I'm afraid of my health, I kind of laugh. No.
No. If it was the health, it wouldn't be so hard.
No, it would be so easy.
If I was dying and I needed to eat only salad, then I would eat only salad so I won't die. But...
Pretty much. But this is, the idea of health is to try to promote what you're doing. It's kind of like, I want this to look good.
Yeah.
I'm going to convince myself, and I want to convince others that what I'm doing, what I need to protect me from that emotional fear of being a loser and a failure and the narcissism, I don't want it to be exposed. So I'm going to try to look good by saying I should do this for my health.
Yeah.
Did that hurt? Did it sting? Is there any cognitive dissonance with that? I'm laughing only because I know anybody watching this video is going, oh my God, that hurt what she just said, because it was true. You got to tell yourself the truth if you want to recover.
Yeah.
And it hurts. Because it's covering up. It's like protecting what you're doing. And what you're doing is what you're trying to recover from. And how are you going to recover if you're not willing to expose what you're doing and get rid of what you're doing? What I'm doing is going to help me be thin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Did I just describe the insanity for you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've even gone through during this week from the last time we talked.
The clarity. Again, this is why I think going back into hell is really important for people who struggle to tell themselves the truth. It is like, oh shit, I got to tell myself the truth. I thought I could do this without having to tell the truth. I thought I could do it kind of. I thought I could do it my way. Do you really want to do it your way?
No.
Do you see that your way sucks?
Yes.
Okay. That's important too. So, right. But everybody holds on to my way. Robin is going to help me, but you know what? I'm going to do it my way. Do it my way. I don't want to have to, because I have a reason, because I have a story, and she doesn't get it.
Yeah, I started going back into all the things that happened to me when I was younger.
Right? I know. Poor me. You really went in a circle, didn't you?
Oh, hell. Yeah.
Do you see it as a circle? It's a loop.
Yeah. I felt like I was right back to like the day before I called you.
And you go to the far left and you go to the far right and you come back to the center and you go to the far left and you go to the far right, and what I'm telling you to do is just stop.
Yeah.
But if you just stop, crap, you're going to be, it goes back into the thin supremacy position, which is you're going to be fat and ugly and a loser and no one's going to like you, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
No one's going to know the real thin you.
Yeah.
That real thin you, no one
the real me that's side.
Yeah,
You know, like the picture
thin.
of the fat body unzipping and then the hot chick steps
That's
out from the inside.
that I have a picture is going to be used in my book as an example of how fucked up that is.
Yeah.
The thin you realize that picture of the thin you wasn't even your picture of you. It was the diet industry's picture they created of you as their thinner person to sell what they're selling. And there's a couple pictures that are like very misogynistic. There's a fit lady chipping away at the fat body. I love that one. That's an artistic rendering from a guy in Brazil. Another one is a voluptuous sex kitten coming out of a fat body.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just like, oh my God.
I know, and just unzipping it like it's that easy.
Well, in the dogma, right? It's so easy. Here, buy our supplements. Here, buy our shake system. Use the jiggle machine. Just use this lotion. Go keto. You know, starve the fuck out of yourself for days.
Yeah. And
HCG protocol, right? They use the same thing in that. I've seen that float around. It's just, it is so. But the thing is, you believe it, so you never question that.
Right.
It's just an undiscussed truth. Everybody wants the body. It's a truth. So that's where it is dogma. And to come out of it, you have to see that as dogma. That is the standard. That is superior. That is the only option for you. You have no alternative but that superior option. And even if you could reach that superior option, do you get freedom?
No.
Because... Why?
Because I have to keep doing what I did to get there.
You do.
Forever and ever.
Is that thinner? So let's imagine you have the option of it. You could get thinner. You know that. You and I both know the option is there. You could do it. Is it worth it if it means you are permanently trapped?
No. Nope. No. Yeah. Not just the crazy hours of exercising every day and then the meal planning, crazy diet, but the mental part of it is the worst.
Yeah. I was gonna say the obsessiveness is just jacks for openers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that's all you think about. You cannot, in your paranoia. It's the paranoia. It's the isolation in your mind. It's the lack of reality. It's the complete fear that it will be exposed as a lie on every corner wherever there's food. People will find out you're a fraud. I mean, because underneath it all, it's all pretend anyways. You still feel like an inadequate human being, even if you had the hottest body. You have to keep it. And any other body out there walking around that's hotter and thinner and more fitter than you puts you in a position of relative deprivation. So even if you get that body, you're made to feel inferior once again.
Yeah. Yep.
So the fantasy you've been chasing, you have to realize doesn't exist.
No.
So what you're left with is your original issues. You've wasted decades trying to find a solution outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to be grateful that you've had decades to run in circles.
Yeah.
And that you're aware that you're running in circles. So it took decades to just be aware.
Yeah.
To suffer enough. It took a lot for you to suffer enough to where you are now at a position of in war where you need to make a choice to either keep on doing what you're doing or to quit.
I quit.
Well, that would be the answer you might think I want to hear. You have to really say, I'm done. What does that mean? If you quit, what does that mean you have to accept? You don't just quit and get the freedom of relief. You have to accept the loss of what you were not going to get what you were chasing.
Exactly. I'm not going to get the knee-high boots and the tight pants. I'm not going to get the cute clothes, the hot body, not going to get all the attention, the looks like, oh, she's so beautiful.
Who's that girl?
Yeah, I'm not going to have guys asking me for my number so I can tell them I'm married.
Well, those are the things that you're chasing and that you are part of that fantasy. You have to really be honest with yourself. What's in that fantasy that's so worth this type of mental illness and suffering?
Yuck.
You know, what is it worth? Is it worth it even if you could reach it? Do you want those things?
No, and that's the hardest thing is because when I was thinner, when I was younger, I was, you know, molested and practically raped and all kinds of awful things happened because
Me too.
you know, I looked the way I did. Yeah. And how do I want that again? I mean, not that, you know, just because a person is thin puts them in a vulnerable position. That's not the truth. But just
you're wanting approval. You want to. You want to feel that you are special. This really comes down to ego. Exactly. And the narcissistic core of the ego in survival, which is really wired for us to be self-serving. And can you see why if you don't feel that you're capable with your reality, you really believe your reality is inferior? Your reality is inferior. But I want you to question that. Is reality really inferior? Which one is inferior? You've been chasing an alternative.
Yeah.
Which one is worse?
The fake reality.
Don't you agree? I mean, right?
Yeah.
I agree. The fake reality is all fantasy and all slavery. Fantasy slavery. It's not real. You're chasing illusions. You're living in a distorted reality that doesn't even exist in reality. And you're disconnected from people. You're disconnected from life. You're living in a paused relationship with the body. So you're not really actually inhabiting your body, which means you're disconnecting from expressing yourself physically.
Yeah.
So there is no life. Chasing a mirage.
Yeah.
And all along, your body has been destroyed because of the chase. Because the modality to be thinner is triggering survival mode with food.
Yeah.
Do you think your body would be better off if you just left it alone?
Oh my God, yes.
Well, how are you going to do that?
I have to stop believing that I can change it and make it better, and that being thinner and everything is better than what I have.
Yeah. You have to stop needing something other than what you have. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If I would have known this years ago, you know how much...
Yeah, well, you can say that, but years ago you would have said, no. Yeah. Doesn't everybody want to be thin and attractive?
Yeah.
No. You would have thought this is ridiculous. You had to suffer enough for this to have truth to it.
Yeah.
And to admit truth to it. You had to really have this perspective. So even if you heard this years ago, you would have laughed at it and said,
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have believed any of it if I heard it actually back in the day when I had 50 diet books on my shelf.
Right? You would have been like, Robin is some libtard who is like fucking feminist who doesn't get it. Yeah. Don't all women want to be sexually attractive to the men in our patriarchal, misogynistic community? The diet industry cares about us. They want us to be successful and feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's so scary too. One of the girls with that other Beachbody thing was posting about that. This company is so wonderful. They care so much about families that they made it so me and my husband can do the videos together, and I just like.
Well, for you, it's you bring into it some narcissism that is really intense. She might not be bringing that. You know what I mean? It's like, if it really helps them be active and at least do something, good for them.
Exactly, yeah.
Whatever.
But
for you, it is like, it is a way to torture yourself to be as thin as you can to be superior. And of course they are selling that superior. Look at the people that are promoting those videos that they have plastered on the front.
Yeah.
They're not
and the
really...
way they talk during the videos too. Oh my God.
I know. You've got to be able to do this and have all of that around you.
Yeah, that's what I am realizing too, because I,
Mhm.
was 1,000 different times gonna delete all these people on my Facebook, and
Yeah.
and I don't want to see all that. I'm like, no, because I'm not free. If I can't stand seeing it, then I'm not actually free.
No, I would agree completely. You've got to be able to give them grace. If you got to give yourself grace.
Yeah, and stop judging them because
Well, that comes second.
yeah, because I'm like, oh,
You can just
they
see what they're
don't
doing.
know.
You can go, oh, well, if they feel that way about being thinner, this would be important.
Yeah.
To anybody that feels this way about being thinner, it would be that important. And if it was as intense as it was for me, it's going to be a little obsessive. And if the person who's obsessive about it feels as bad as I do in my real self, of course they're going to try to find something to feel better about themselves. They're not doing anything wrong by doing that.
Yeah.
You see how it's so forgivable?
Yeah. Yep.
That's something I remember realizing in my own recovery was any human being who felt this bad about themselves would seek to feel better.
I have such a hard time, giving myself. I can't even say it. Like, giving myself some mercy here.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason is because you might be holding these standards dogmatically, and that might give you cognitive dissonance to question them. This is very much like religion. To say, I do not believe premarital sex is a deadly sin, that would have conflicted with my religion before, right?
Right.
Do not think I am worthy of shame because of what I've done. That's like, well, then the religion's wrong. I can't admit that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So there's some religiosity or morality in what you're thinking then. So look at that. I want you to feel that out. I could be wrong. The reason why you can't say it is because you believe this is a moral obligation to be thin. There's morality involved here.
Yeah. That's true, yeah.
So if you believe this is a moral obligation, you're so screwed.
Oh, help. Help me.
Yeah, I can't. I cannot do this for you.
How do I extract that? I need like a knife to cut that out.
You have to do it. You have to go in and question it. Is this truly if I done something morally wrong, is this worthy of sin?
No way. Nope.
Go into yourself, not others. You. Is this really? I mean, go into your integrity and the feel for years that you've put into this. Is it really? Has this been malicious?
No.
Okay, because I could see if you were maliciously doing this, intentionally wanting this, and to piss off God somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like that. I can see that now.
Maybe that's, worthy of some morality issues. I don't know. Who am I to say? But is this really something you should feel that is worthy of help?
No.
Is this worthy? Is this so bad morally that you do not deserve mercy? Is this really that defining? Based on your integrity.
Nope.
Bring the integrity into it. Because don't you agree, without the integrity, we're looking at it from a superficial perspective. It's like we're just looking at the outcome going, fat people are morally bad.
Yeah.
Because you are lazy, slothful, gluttonous, you're don't want it, uneducated. There's all that superficial ignorance that you've been taught that has been inferred by the diet industry. They infer it.
Wow.
Right? So there's been this moral stigmatizing of it. So there's that. I'm a quitter, I'm a loser. I can't control myself. I have no self-control. Well, there's that assumption that you were taught. that you morally probably internalized as dogmatic truth. You didn't realize it was dogma, but you just, because you never questioned it, you just said, that's true. You probably judged your parents, or judged an aunt, or judged other people at some point that fat people suck and they're lazy pieces of shit. And you internalized that morally in your upstanding pride. And then it probably flipped at some point where you were on this side and you're living now in shame from your own shaming of yourself through other people. So here's your karma.
Yeah.
Karma's a bitch.
Yeah, then I should be like 500 pounds after all that.
Well, that's what's happening in your shame based on the pride you took in shaming others. This is, I realized this at the end too. This is karma. The self-promotion in my thinness keeps me here. The shame of others in their fatness is keeping you there.
Yeah.
I never really shamed others. I pitied others because socially they were being treated poorly. I promoted the thinness. So for me, I was held hostage to the pride in fear of being exposed as a liar. For you, if you shamed other people, you're held hostage to the shame.
Gosh, that's it too. That's it right there. Because my dad, he used to make fun of people all the time when we were little. So then I just saw a vision of me and my brother sitting in the back pew of church, drawing pictures of giant people
making fun of them,
tiny belt with like a tiny belt and their belt bursting, and oh my gosh,
karma's a bitch.
Horrible.
Right? Do you see it now? Like, should you now look at your reality? Because you're living in reality, and tell me if that stigma and that ignorance is true. Which one should be given more truth?
Oh my gosh. My reality is...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's ever since I was a little kid. Like my little boy is 4, like that age.
Yeah, it's programming, and it's innocent. That's the other thing. You can say, well, that was really innocent, but you know, it began at a young age, and I never questioned it because it was my dad, and we innocently, because we honor our parents and we believe, well, they're adults, they must know. You just didn't see the ignorance in it. And you promoted it. At some point, you latched onto it moralistically and promoted it in yourself, and then demoted others. So that's
even
where,
after he apologized for doing that and changed, it was already like
you internalized it. You believed it. You internalized it, and you did it to others. So I think that's important to see that I was wrong. I promoted something that was really wrong. So what is more worthy of shame? Someone who is like yourself, or the person who's ignorantly promoting this stuff?
Oh gosh. Which is more worthy of shame?
Yeah. If we're going to play the shame game.
Yeah, well, the one promoting
ignorance. Yeah. As if it is truth.
Yeah.
Unquestionable truth.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
So the shame you need to extract from yourself and put back into that belief system. That belief system is what's housing the shame. The only reason why you have it is because you believe that system. So you get shame too. Give that shame back to that system.
Yeah.
It's not yours. This was really important for me to recover from that religious indoctrination for me. And the body image indoctrination and the athletic the layers of indoctrination and programming I had to recognize the dogma is where the shame resides. If I internalize it, I get the shame that resides in it. There is no shame.
Wow.
There is no shame outside of that, because if you truly believe in the grace of God, you're to be real. You're not to be fake.
Yeah, that's so crazy because I couldn't understand why I just never felt like I could forgive myself,
Because you thought it was unforgivable.
Yeah.
You believed it was an unforgivable sin. That's the morality is. I caught that. I'm glad I caught that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, once it becomes moral. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, that's why it feels like a brick wall. Like I keep butting up against a brick wall.
Well, and
like, why won't it go?
And not only that, but to face it and to call it out for what it is causes cognitive dissonance. Because it's like, but there's safety in those beliefs. Is it really safe?
Yeah.
Is it really safe?
No.
It's extremely dangerous to carry dogma that way, ignorantly accepting it without questioning it.
It's like hanging out with a loose noose around your neck.
Totally. And it is the cause of your shame. Would you feel ashamed otherwise?
No.
The dogma is the cause of the shame. If you didn't believe the dogma, you would not be ashamed of what's happened here. You would actually look at it and go, well, no shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That type of dieting is going to promote binging. Duh! It's not the food.
No.
It's the shame.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
It's extremely abusive too.
Yeah.
So abusive. You're promoting a way of eating that is triggering primal issues with food, and then saying it's healthy.
And then anytime I was on a diet, if I felt like I couldn't stick to it, then
you are the bad guy.
With me? Yeah.
Once again, if you look at the dogma, they will never ever say it's them.
No.
That's the morality around the religion. It's like religiosity. No one would ever look at the religion that promotes itself as superior and sacred. We are.
Yeah.
It is sacred truth.
Even like AA, it works if you work it. You have to keep doing that, whatever they tell you.
Well, that's, you have to keep in mind that there are people who have this who twist everything into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at the 12 steps, it's been twisted. In some places, it can be twisted and distorted into a new religion.
Yeah.
And it's understandable why, because these people are not willing to face their fear, even though that's part of the 12 steps,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. They just glom onto a new religion because it gives them a sense of safety from having to face these underlying issues. It's like your new tribe. And we could say there's a benefit to that, to some degree.
It's like putting on a different armor.
Yeah, it's like going to Weight Watchers. You could say there's a benefit to that.
I went there like 12 times and I can't see anything.
Well, at this point, you've suffered so radically that you have no alternative. Going halfway or even a quarter way, or it doesn't work anymore because it's all suffering to you now. All of it.
Yeah. Like day one would be.
Yeah, you went past the point of no return.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah. And all the times that I felt the freedom during this, during our sessions together, I'm grateful that was not just it, that there's more coming.
Right? Well, there's gratitude for the fact that you're aware that freedom does exist.
Yeah.
It exists. There is a way out.
Yeah.
Now you have to do it if you want it. So, yeah. I know you're going to look back at some point. At some point, you're going to look back. You're going to re-listen to these videos, and you're going to start going, oh, I know I didn't get it then. Oh, look at what I just said. Oh, yeah. No, I was in denial.
I've already seen that, and it sucks.
Right?
And there's times I actually felt like I did,
Well, and what you'll do too is you're going to listen to him and you're going to see what I'm not seeing because I'm not in it. I'm out here just dissecting what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a moment like what happened 20 minutes ago for me to go, oh, this is moral. There's a morality. Yeah. There's cognitive dissonance in it. She doesn't want to look at this. She believes it for everybody else, but not for herself because there's a moral high ground here.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah, I've heard a church I went to before. I don't go anywhere near it now, but the preacher had taught from the pulpit about how, you shouldn't just get all fat like a blob, and expect your mate to still like you. And
oh, that guy's a dick. I could
just hear the words coming through in front of, it was a sermon.
What an asshole!
Congregation, and he's got a big fat pot belly right now, So then when I saw him, I'm like, how can you say that? And it's because he feels shame
for himself.
Yeah. But then, during that time, it just made me feel like, oh, see, there is something wrong with me because I was giving that person so much power in my life.
Well, here I am calling him an asshole, being Miss Judgy Judgerpants over here.
Well,
but the truth of it is, but no, is it him or is it the diet industry?
Yeah, it's the diet industry.
Correct.
Yeah,
this is like, you really have to look at the dogma. Obviously, when people internalize it, they're assholes. But the assholeness is in the dogma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because I can remember feeling all cocky and like I knew everything.
Oh, yeah.
During those times.
There's
too,
the pride.
When I was losing the weight and starting to look good, what I was thinking was looking good. And yeah.
Yeah, well, and that pride is, don't you agree, the source of the shame. And the more pride you took in thinnerness, the worse off you get in your shame. You can't expect to take pride and not have a consequence for that inflated. Right. You're inflating yourself to be more important, more special, more successful than you actually are.
Yeah.
Again, that's survival mode on the fighting side. I'm gonna win. I'm winning.
Yeah.
You're losing. And the moment you say someone else is losing is like a whole nother level of suffering that's coming your way. That's like the karma. That's like, now you're going into the point of no return.
Oh, God.
Because you're now using other people and demonizing other people and for your own benefit.
Yeah.
Can you see where now you're playing God and now you get to suffer?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And the suffering is actually what's necessary for you to stop playing God. You have to surrender. I lost. I suck.
Yeah.
And your godness, that is the narcissism, right, that you're portraying, is what is having such a hard time quitting. It's the narcissism that doesn't want to quit, that won't face it.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, it is really difficult to let that narcissism go because it is the source of your life.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's what it's telling you. You can't survive without me.
Yeah.
You need me to survive. You will never survive without me. And you have to say, I don't want your survival. That's what you're going to have to say to get out. I'd rather die.
Yeah.
And you do it spiritually. You don't have to kill the body. What's the body done?
Yeah, exactly. That's just
nothing.
Trying to punish it more.
It has done nothing. So to kill the body is doing nothing. You got to kill the ego. You got to kill the survival that says you have to be thin. Well, the way you kill that is you reject it. I don't want thinness. You're not promoting fatness. You're rejecting the thinness. You're saying, I don't care. I don't want it.
That's where I was getting all confused too, and thinking, like I saw this picture of Taylor Swift the other day and I was like, oh gosh, she's a little skinny thing. I'm like, wait. No, we can't do that either where we start, talking like, like they're bad.
That's the ego. Thin, you don't want to be egotistical about someone who's dieting. It's like, you got to have compassion for that. The goal is that you see body as a body, not some superior or inferior thing. It's not about inferior or superior. It's about, is it alive? Great.
Yeah.
You have some way to experience this. So the experience is really relative to the person who's inhabiting it, accepting it for what it is. The problem is when you accept an alternative before you accept your reality. So then you start judging your reality compared to the alternative. And that alternative now you have to live. Is that, did you even hear what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have to go.
Okay.
This was our last session.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Do you want to keep on going? What's your plan?
Yeah, I do.